Hello and welcome to Craft with Sarah and day 9 of the card making countdown, where I'm sharing 14 brand new card making tutorials in 14 days. Today we're making Cascade cards, and these are lovely cards that open up and they look beautiful on both sides, and you've got a panel to write your message. They can either be displayed from the front like this, or you could put them on the side so that you can see more of the details. Super hard to show on a top-down camera, but that's kind of what they look like from the side. Or if you display them from the front, then you see this side instead of that one. You can leave them kind of plain, like I've done here. Or you can go to town on the embellishments. For example, I've got a puck theme here, which I've created with lots of fun little doggy embellishments. And probably one of the favourite cards I've ever made, a bumblebee card with some little gnomes inside. How cute is that? I've got lots of shiny cardstock on this one as well. So as part of today's download, you'll get 3 Cascade card templates. There's this one, which is the standard template with the straight edge down the side. You'll also get this one, and this is the one I used for the bumblebee card, which has got this scallop circle down each of the sides. So it opens up like this. And then, perfect for birthdays, also included is this candle design with little cutout candles that go down each of the sides, and those candles are included in the SVG. So there you go, 3 different templates. I'll show you how to load them in Design Space, how to format all the score lines, and how to get them ready to cut. Then we'll put one together. Then after that, I'll go back into Design Space to show how to add custom embellishments, such as these. Now, you're not limited to just bumblebees and pugs. You can make your Cascade cards for whatever theme or occasion you want, with whatever pictures you want. So this section of the video will be more of a tutorial on how to choose your own images and how to size them, rather than specifically making a bumblebee design. But if you did want to make the bees, then you'll see where I find all those images as part of that section. So let's get started and find out how to get the downloads. The files for this project are free for the next 24 hours. Here's how to download them. Register a free ticket for the card making countdown at craftwithsarah.com/cards25. After registering, you'll get an email which contains a link to the schedule page for the countdown. Visit the schedule page to find and download today's files. Each download is only available for free for 24 hours after it goes live. If you've missed some, check out the Instant Access Bundle at craftwithsarah.com/cards25 bundle, which gives immediate and ongoing access to all of the files from the card making countdown, plus loads of extra bonus designs. The download comes in a zip folder. You need to unzip this before uploading the SVG files into Cricut Design Space. Once you've downloaded and unzipped the folder, it's time to get the SVG file into Cricut Design Space. Open up Design Space and start a new project. Go to Upload over on the left and then Upload Image. You can then either click Browse to find a file on your computer or drag and drop it in. Make sure you choose the unzipped version of the download folder. For Cricut Design Space, you'll then want the subfolder called 01 Cricut version. If you're using a Silhouette or a Scan and Cut, head to craftwithsarah.com/help, choose your type of machine from the list on the screen, and then there are extra tutorials and videos in there on how to choose the right file for your particular type of cutting machine. For Cricut Design Space, remember it's the 01 Cricut version, and within there will be 4 separate files for each of the different templates included with this project. The file names explain which template it's for. We've got Cascade Card Candles, Cascade Card Circular Edges, Cascade Card Envelope, and Cascade Card Straight Edges. All 3 of the Cascade Card templates are formatted in Design Space in the same way. Let's take a look at the straight edge version. This is what it looks like on upload. Press Continue, and then Upload. Then the project will insert onto your canvas. You see it looks a little bit strange at the moment with these different colours of shape, and that's because I put them in bright red to sort of make it obvious that these ones are going to be cut from something quite different to the rest of the card, for instance from your patterned paper. Before we can cut this out, we need to format the score lines. To do that, click on the design and then press the Ungroup button at the top of the Layers panel. This separates out all of the pieces. Scroll down to the bottom and then you'll see that there's a layer in here which has got a little arrow next to it. That shows that this is still in a group, and that's how you can identify the base card with the score lines. Open up the group by clicking the arrow. You might need to scroll down to then see the layers within it. There are two layers within here. One is the main base shape, and then there's one on top that looks like two vertical lines. This is the one we need to change to score. So click to select just those vertical lines. You can see I've got them selected because it's gone green in the layers panel. Then over in the operations drop down on the top left of the screen, change it to score. If I click away now, you see those solid lines have changed to dash. It won't actually do it in dashed lines, it will be a straight score line. However, Design Space shows score lines on the screen as dashes so that it's easier to see where you've already changed them. We need to do one more thing, which is to tell the Cricut to do the scoring on our base card. Click to select that mini group. You can see now I've got my base card and those lines selected, and then down the bottom of the layers panel, press attach. Attach moves the layers to the top of the layers panel, which is now why we now can't see any of those other pieces. Put it back to the bottom by going Arrange, Send to Back. And then this would be ready to cut. But what I quite like to do is to change the colours to match what I'm going to be cutting it from, to make it a bit easier when you're going through the cut process to know which colours to use. For my demo card, I've got a beautiful butterfly paper to use, which is black with rose gold detailing. And then I use a rose gold for my borders. So first up, let's open up that attach and click the base layer. I'll be cutting mine from black, but I'm actually going to change it just to a dark grey so that I can still just about see those score lines, just to remind myself that they're there. And then I'll do all of the blue bits from rose gold. That's probably going to be a bit hard to find a rose gold colour in Design Space, so I'll just go for a kind of orangey colour. You can change all layers that are in one colour to another colour in one go by using the Colour Sync option at the top of the Layers panel. I'll click that and then drag all of my blue bits into that new colour, let go with the mouse, and they all change in one go, which is nice and easy. And then to remind myself that I'll be doing these from a pattern paper, I'm going to keep the other pieces in red. For this card, I'm going to do all of the colours of the pattern paper from the same sheet, but if you want to do it from different ones, then you can change up those colours. Just click on the layers you want to change and then put it to a different colour. So for instance, lime green, you could do the middle one on there and maybe the smaller one on there from a different pattern paper. And you could even do every single one a different colour by changing it up again. It's completely up to you how few or how many colours or patterns of paper that you use. If you don't have any pre-printed pattern paper to use, you could print your own using Cricut's Print Then Cut feature and the pattern fill tool within Design Space. That means you could download pictures or patterns or backgrounds, anything you like, and add them in to these exact shapes and then get the Cricut to cut them out once you've printed them on your colour printer. For instructions on how to do that, head to the schedule page for the card baking countdown. Near the top of the page, there's a box called Foundation Learning, and within there is a link to a separate tutorial on how to use the pattern fill feature. But I'm using this countdown as an opportunity to use some of my pattern papers, so that's what I'll be doing. And I'm just going to undo those recent changes to put all those pieces back to red because, as I said, I'll be using the same paper for all of those. This would now be ready to cut. Give the project a save if you want to. I'm not going to worry about saving this because I've not done very many changes. And then press Make over on the top right of the screen, and I'm not going to save. You can change the paper size by changing the drop down in here. And if you want to, you can rotate, press Shift to rotate exactly 90 degrees and move things about to take up less space on your cardstock. The only thing to be aware of is rotating things on your pattern paper layer. If your pattern paper has a specific way up that the pattern goes, then you don't want to rotate things like this. Otherwise, when it cuts out and you stick it on your card, your patterns will show the wrong way up. But you can still click and drag and keep things in the same direction to use up a little bit less space. So by moving that bit up there, I'll now have half of my bit of pattern paper available to use on another project another day. When you're happy with how everything's looking in Design Space, press continue to connect to your Cricut. Follow the on-screen instructions to get everything cut from your cardstock. Please note that this particular card does require 12 by 12 inch cardstock. As you can see here, this takes up most of the bit of paper. There's only a little bit of excess that will be left. If you're using a Joy Extra, then you can resize the design smaller before you click make so that you can make it on that particular type of cutting machine. So go ahead, get everything cut out, and I'll show you how to stick together the pieces of your Cascade card. Here are all of my pieces cut out, and I have used the most beautiful paper for this. I found this paper pack recently in The Range, which is a UK shop, and it's got mirrored rose gold butterflies all over a black background, and it's so pretty. I think it looks nicer in real life than what you can see on the camera. And then I've got a rose gold to go behind just to finish that off, and then I cut my base from black. This is going to be a really striking card. I'll drop the link to the exact paper pack in the description of this video or in the tutorial if you're reading the written tutorial instead of watching the video. What we need to do is to stick all of the pattern paper pieces onto the larger shapes underneath to make the borders. It's easiest to lie everything out into position first to make sure you're putting all the right bits on the right shapes, and also that everything is the right way around, because it's really easy, believe me, I did it when I was testing these out, to accidentally stick the wrong bit on the wrong direction, especially if you've got double-sided paper. Mine is quite easy to tell because it's white on the back, so that's good. But when it's double-sided, you could accidentally, for example, end up with two this way round where the lines at the top go the same way, and then it's not going to stick together properly. So you need to make sure that you end up with opposites of each of the sides. So my little bit here, I've got one slanting down that way, one going down that way, the same on the middle, and also on the top, we've got one going that way, and then one going the other way, which will be the message panel. Somewhere I've got my white piece of card, which will be stuck onto my message panel. I just can't seem to see it right now, so I'm going to just pause this video, go ahead and locate it. Okay, so I couldn't find it, had to recut it, but never mind, we're ready. Obviously this means I'm going to find it now that I've recut it. So place, it's the wrong way around now. This is why we place everything before we start. Okay. Place all of those so we know we've got them the correct way around, and then get your glue. I like Barely Art Glue and Kalal. I buy these both on Amazon in the UK, and I like these glues because they don't bend or wrinkle the card like some glues can do. And it's just really as simple as gluing all of the smaller pieces onto the bigger ones. I've already done most of them, just so you're not watching me glue rectangles together. They're not even quite rectangles. I don't know what shape you'd call these. Try and get them in the middle, which I am terrible at. There's one, and then I need to do the message panel too. There we are. And then I've already glued all the others. While we're waiting for the glue on those two bits to dry, let's fold the card up. So we've got our two score lines, and then it doesn't really matter which way around you do it, but it depends a little bit on whichever side you've stuck your message, because you'll want that to be on the back. So what I'm going to do is, with my back piece on my craft mat, I'm going to fold down this score line and do a valley fold. So I'm folding it so that the point of the fold goes downwards. So we're making a V shape, hence valley fold. This is incredibly thick card and it hasn't scored very deeply. So this might not be the neatest fold ever. Let's try and at least get it straight along the bottom. If you've got a brayer tool, you can go down to get a crisp fold. So that's what we've ended up with. Upwards to make a V, or the sides come up, the fold is at the bottom. And then the other fold will go in the opposite direction. So this time, a mountain fold. So the point will be at the top, like the top of a mountain. And then brayer down. Probably shouldn't have used black card because it's really hard to show what I've done. So we've now got an accordion style that will be freestanding and it bends in on itself to go in the envelope. This is what we've got. It'll be easier to see once I've stuck all the pieces on. Okay, open it up and then glue all of the bits into their relevant spaces. And again, try and center it in the gaps. And that would be one of them done. Then I do the same for the others. Then turn it over and do the same for these ones too. And your message panel will go on the very back. I'm going to pause my video and get all of those bits glued, and then we'll take a little look at how it looks. I said the word look lots in that sentence. I've now glued all my panels on. This is so pretty. It's all double-sided with my message panel at the back. And then it folds up. So this is how it would come out of the envelope. And then open it up, turn it around to read the message. And you can look at it from that side too. Every single bit of this card is covered. Once you get to this point, you can then add any other decorations or embellishments that you want. The other two templates included in today's download go together in a similar way. I'll show you those too. So this is our straight edge template. There's also the scalloped edge template. That looks like this. So I've gone a little bit less striking, but still beautiful with this butterfly paper on a pink and a kind of almost aquary blue background. My message panel on the back again. I've deliberately kept these plain and not added any extra embellishments just to show you how they look cut just as the templates load in without anything extra. But we will go through how to add extra bits in a moment. And then finally is the birthday candles card. I just love this. This one's a little bit different because you've got all the candle shapes going over the edge. It will look like you're cutting out a ton of candles, and that's because they all have to be double-sided so that they look good from that side and that side. So it does take a little while to glue them on, but you'll glue all the yellow bits first. So do one side, all the yellows going down, and then all of the colour on top. I've done pink, but it could be whatever you want. And then when the glue's dried on all of those, turn it over and do the same on the other side. And they look really fun when they're all stood up. You can either display it from the front like this, or turn it round and you'd have it on display from the side. It's so hard to show you with a top-down camera, so it'd look more like that. How fun is that? How amazing would it be to pull that out of an envelope? But if this wasn't enough, let's take a little look now back in Design Space and see how you can use the software to add your extra embellishments that can be cut with your Cricut. This is great for if you maybe don't have a big craft stash of stamps or pre-made embellishments or toppers or sentiments and you want to cut everything with a Cricut. And it also means you're more likely to find things that are going to match your pattern paper because you'll have the whole of the internet's worth of SVGs to choose from. I'm now back in Design Space and I've loaded the circular edge version of the Cascade card, and I've already done the formatting where I've added the score lines down them, and I've changed my pattern paper pieces so that I'll cut it from 2 different shades. I've also loaded in these 2 bumblebee gnome designs. These are available in my shop. If you'd like to get the same designs, I'll drop a link to that in the description of this video. As these will be cut very small to go on the card, I'm going to make things a little bit easier for my Cricut by removing some of the detailed layers. You don't have to do this because they do actually cut really well at a small size, even details like the wings and the details in the hair and the beard. However, that can take quite a long time to get them cut out, so reducing some of the layers will make it a little bit quicker. So let's take a look at the female gnome first. Open up the layers and have a little look down. And then I think I'm going to remove the detail along the wings. So click it and then click the eye to hide it to make sure you've got the right one. And then you can either leave it hidden or you can delete that layer. And then I'll also look up and find the detail in her hair and hide that too. Everything else I'll cut as is. For the male gnome, open up the layers on him. And once again, hide the details in the wings. And I'm going to hide his beard and moustache details too. For a more detailed video on how to show and hide layers, head to craftwithsarah.com/help. Choose either Cricut, Silhouette or Scan and Cut on the screen depending on what type of machine you're using, and then look for the separate video on there on how to modify your files within your cutting machine software. Now that I've made these simpler, I can make them super duper small to go on the card. When you're sizing designs to go on your card, make sure they don't go either over the edge of the card on the outside or over any of those score lines. For instance, if I made that this big, it's not going to fit inside the card when it's all glued together because it's going over that score line here, so I won't be able to glue it on. Likewise, if I did it like this so that it would go over the edge of the card, that means it won't fit in my envelope once it's all put together. So we need to go a little smaller for our bumblebee. And I'll rotate him round so he'll fit on there. And the same thing for the female. Make her smaller and then rotate round a little bit. Trying to make her as big as I can get without going over those edges, and the same for him. So they're just over 2.5 inches tall, just over 3.5 inches wide on the male, and about the same. She's a little bit taller because her antennae bits are sticking up tall, whereas his are bent over. So she's about 2 3/4 inches tall. I love making the gnomes super tiny. It makes them extra cute. Now I'm going to need some extra details to go on the other pieces. So for this, I'll look in Cricut Access, but you can use any SVGs that you have. Let's go into Images and type out bee. I want quite a simple little bee, and I'm going to choose this one just because that's one of my images. So I'm going to go for that one. And this is in Cricut Access if you have that too. And then close out of there. I want to add some colour to this, so I'll add some off-white for the wings and also the yellow for the rest of the bumblebee. To do that, press the duplicate button at the top of the layers panel to make a copy. To start with, let's do the blue for the wings. So I'll change that, and I'm going to use the same blue as the wings in my bumblebee gnomes. You can tell which colours are already in the design because they'll show under the material colours heading. Don't worry that at the moment there are several very similar colours. We'll figure that all out at the end. To fill in the gaps so that we can see the wing details through the top layer, press Contour and then hide all contours, or you can click into each shape individually. You see as I'm doing this, it's filling in those holes on the layer underneath, and then close out of it. And then if I drag that onto the top, we've now got a 2-layer image for our bumblebee. We need one more to make the yellow in the body. So we'll duplicate that top layer, change it to yellow, go back into contour And this time, just click in to the bits you want to show up in that new colour. And then we've now got a 3-layered image. Drag a box around all those layers and press Align, Center to line them up nicely, and then Group to put them together. Now we can resize and everything changes together. I'll make my little bumblebee 1¼ inches wide, and then I'm not quite sure where I want them to go yet on the design, so I'm just going to make a load of copies and cut them out and then decide on the positioning once everything's stuck together, because I think it will vary a little bit based on where the pattern on the paper shows. So I just keep them off to one side. And then I think you could do with a few more little embellishments. We'll have another look under images and we'll go beehive. Have a look. I'm looking for one with quite thick outlines, so it'll be easy to cut from cardstock. And you can either choose a plain black image and then add the colour yourself like we just did with the bees, or choose one that's already layered. I'll go for this. However, if you are choosing one that's layered, have a little look at those layers before you cut it out, because it might be that this is formatted for cutting from vinyl rather than cardstock. If I look in here, yeah, this is definitely not quite suitable for cardstock at the moment, because it's going to cut all of those yellow pieces separately, and then I'd have to glue all of those onto the black and get them all in the right position, which would be very tricky. So let's undo that to put that back on there. And a way to fix that is to ungroup the layers and then make a copy of the base one and move it off to the side for now. Drag a box around both of these and press Slice. That will cut the yellow out of the black. So now I've got the outline that I can have in black. I'll change my duplicated one here to yellow. And now this is a 2-layer image where all the pieces are going to cut as one. So it'll be much easier to put together. I think I'd like one of my beehives to go over the top, and then if you do that, it means if you're looking at the card from the other side, then you'll see the back of this bit. So what we could do is make it double-sided so that anything poking out over the top can also be stuck the other side, and then it will be pretty whichever way you look at it. To do that, duplicate the group by pressing the duplicate button, and then we need to make a mirror image of it so that they can be stuck back to back. So with your second copy selected, press flip and then flip horizontal. That was quite a subtle change, but now these two images are mirrored copies of each other, which means they'll stick back to back beautifully. We'll look for one more. And actually, that is pretty much perfect. I was about to look for a honeycomb pattern, and this one's come up, and that's exactly what I was after. So that was easy. Again, it's got nice thick outlines, so it'll be easy to cut from cardstock. Make it a bit smaller. And then I want to fill in the bottom with yellow. So duplicate and then contour, hide all contours to fill in all those holes. Change that to yellow. Drag a box around them and align center and group. If you want to name your groups to make it easier, you can double click and then type. That can make it a little bit easier because we've got group, 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 group. It's hard to see what's what. I'll also do a mirror image of this one in case I decide to stick that out over the top too. So we'll go duplicate and then flip, flip horizontal. Almost there now. I think we just need a sentiment to go on the card. This will vary a bit depending on what type of card you're doing, or if you're making a card that could be used for lots of occasions, you don't need to put a specific sentiment on it if you don't want to. The beauty of these cards is you can customize it exactly how you want. We'll go into images again, and what if we type bee birthday, see what we come up with. A lot of these words with text won't cut well from cardstock because they're very thin letters and it would cut each one separately. So we'd have to glue each letter on one at a time, which would take forever. So to make it easier, go in here and click draw, and that will filter it down to images that can be drawn with the Cricut pen. Now that's shown me ones that are draw only, but I want ones that cut as well. So let's click cut. Now I've got a combination of the both. I'm going to go for this one, which is very cute. It says happy belated birthday. And the idea is that the Cricut pens will draw this and then it will cut around the edge to make it nice and pretty. If you don't have pens for your Cricut, you could do a sentiment that you cut instead, or you could even press the flatten button at the bottom of the layers panel, and that would turn it into a print and cut image that you'd print on your colour printer, and then the Cricut will cut around the edge. For a separate tutorial on that, head to the schedule page for the card making countdown, look in the foundation learning box near the top of the page, and there's a link to a separate tutorial on how to print and cut with your Cricut. Okay, so let's look at the layers. We've just got two, the draw layer and the cut underneath. Change that to white, and then to make it match in with the colours a bit better, I'm going to add some extra borders around the side. I'll click on that offset layer that's already there, press the offset button. This will make an extra border. It gives you a little preview of where it's going to show. This is too big at the minute. I'll try 0.1 inch. That's maybe still a little bit big, 0.07. That's better. Press apply, and then you can change the colour. And actually, I'm going to make that yellow. And then do one more to be cut in black. So click the offset you've just made, and then you can click offset again. It should remember the same number setting, and press apply. When this is cut, I'll glue them all together, and it just adds that extra little bit of detail and matches everything in a bit. That's all the images there that I want to add to my card. I've got enough pieces here that I'll be able to decorate all of the sides. However, at the moment, if we go into, just click a layer, just want a single layer. There we go. And click into the colour box. You see we've got lots of similar colours in here. There's currently 4 browns showing. Those 2 greens are quite similar. And also we've got 2 yellows here where it probably could be combined into one, and 2 blacks and 2 dark greys. To simplify that, so you don't need so many different sheets of card, you can use the colour sync option at the top of the layers panel. We used this earlier when we were looking at changing the colours of the boxes for the main card, but we can do it for the decorations too. I'll click Colour Sync and close some of these up by pressing the arrow. Now I can see I've got a black here and then a slight off black, which is the hats on the bee gnomes, but they're so similar to the black around the edge here that it could be done from the same card. I'll click and drag that into one. And let's also look, we've got 2 dark greys, the dark grey on the male gnome and the female. Again, that could all be done from the same one. And then we've got the green for the daisies on the male and female gnomes. Bring that in and make them the same. That's the blue of the wings, that's all good. That's my little noses and hands. What else have we got? Anything else? The yellow of my base card, I'll change to that same yellow that's used on all of the bees and honeycomb. And then, is that everything? At the moment, the female gnome's hair is a darker brown than the details on the male one. Again, I think that could be the same. Let's click and drag, and now I'll only need 1 brown instead of 2. That's looking much better now. I have reduced that, so I'll need a lot less cardstock in terms of the different shades of similar colours. Give this a save. You don't want to lose all of your hard work. Let's go Cascade card bees. And then I'm just going to add the word video in there so that I remember later on this is the one I did when I was recording, and hit save. And now this is all ready to cut. So press make and it will separate out all the colours for you. Oh look, I've forgotten to do something. That was good that I clicked make so that we can see. So at the moment, my happy belated birthday is not joined on to the white layer underneath, which means it's not going to cut around the edge. Instead, it's going to do that on a separate bit of card and not have the writing on it. To fix that, go back to the design and then click on the group. So we've got the group here, and then what we need to do is attach. So I'll press the attach button. That joins them together. And now if I click make again, there we go. Now this is looking right because it's showing it on the white bit with all the other pieces. And you can see the happy belated birthday now has that border around the edge, which is where it will cut. Just like normal, you can change the paper size and then move things about to take up less space on your cardstock. When you're happy with how everything's looking, press continue to connect to your Cricut and get everything cut out. Here are all of the pieces of my bee-themed card cut out. And I've glued together the decorations already. This is my little gnome. I've used one layer of foam square just under his nose to pop that out and under the flower. He's so small, but look, cut absolutely perfectly. And the same for the female. There she is. And then I've also just glued together all of the other pieces, so we're ready to start sticking. This is my card. I've used another pattern paper set from the range, and it's got these little foil bumblebees on that paper. And then I've used a foil honeycomb for the other side, and then the message panel on the back. So another shiny card. That looks really nice. Okay, so I know that I want my gnomes to go on this back piece so that they'll be easily on display when the card is put up. Let's have a play with those. If you want to, you can go over the edge. Just make sure you don't go over where the score line is. So imagine an invisible line going up here and also along from the very top of the card. You don't want to go any taller than that. So I wouldn't do something like that, for example. Otherwise, that won't fit in the envelope. Maybe could overlap his flower a little bit. Just bear in mind that if you do overlap something, it means when you view it from the other side, you'll see the back of it. And that's why we duplicated the honeycomb and the hives so that I can hang those over the edge. For example, I could put that, I can't hold that, let's do it on the thinner bit. I could put that on the front, for example, and then where it shows on there, stick the matching one, put that upside down. There we go. Stick the other one the other side, and then now line up. If I can get them round the right way, there we go. They would line up so it will look pretty on both sides. Right, back to my aligning. Put her there. Him up here. I'll overhang him a little bit, I think. And then I creased my card here when I was putting it together. So I'm going to totally cover that up with a little bumblebee and no one will ever know. That's looking nice. And then for my happy belated birthday, drawn with the pens, that could maybe go on the front. Then it takes up an awful lot of that pretty paper. Could go up like that maybe. And then have a bumblebee. Honestly, the hardest part is aligning everything, trying to work out where to put it. And then that could go there rather than overlapping the edge with some buzzy bumblebees coming out of it. And then I'll do the same on the other side. So I'll need 2 bees for that. And then this one will join up on the reverse, I think. Or I could put that there, have the hives on the front, put that going out over the side of this bit with some buzzy bees. Oh, decisions. And then on the other side of this one, I could have 3 bees because it won't have the belated birthday. Yeah, I'm going to do that. Okay, decision made. Time to start gluing everything on. It is best to glue all these rather than use foam squares, otherwise your card won't fold up properly. I am slightly regretting using the foam squares for the gnomes because it will make it more difficult, but they were just too cute not to pop out their little noses. Okay, start with the bumblebee to cover up my little mistake crumpling up that corner. And then glue all the other pieces on. Make sure nothing goes over the edges of the card this way or over any of the scores, otherwise it's not going to go together. This is such a nice card. Love the bumblebee theme, and this paper pack was perfect. It's a 12 by 12 inch paper pack and all of the patterns are bee themed. It's really nice. I love the range for pattern paper. They have nice sets and they're quite a good price too. I think it was about maybe £5 for the 12 by 12 pack, which is pretty good. If you're doing stuff that goes over the edge, make sure you only glue the parts that will actually be touching the card for now. So I just add my glue down that bottom bit. It does clash a little bit with the honey comb on the paper, but never mind. And then my bee. On the front, again, need to make sure it doesn't overlap. My corner bee. Oh, look how nice that is. I really like this card, in case you cannot tell. Okay, now ideally you'd let your glue really dry, but as I'm recording, just gonna crack straight on. And now this time for your matching shapes that are going back to back, you can glue the whole thing because it will just touch up against what you've already got there. Line that up so it matches, and then the same with the honeycomb. I just had to do that last little bit off camera because my camera decided that it was going to turn itself off because it got a little bit too warm. So I finished sticking those other bits on now, and just look at this. When it's all closed up, this is what it looks like. You can sort of see the bee theme creeping in. And when it's open, ta-da! We've got shiny papers, bumblebees everywhere, happy belated birthday, gnomes, and you turn it over and there's even more going on this side too. I ended up putting the 2 bees there and then one over on the edge of the message panel. An absolutely stunning card, and it just shows how you can go from the base templates included in today's download and then really transform them by adding a few extra details. I've been working on another one too, which uses the straight edge template. And again, this is one I made in Design Space. This is a pug theme. So I've got my papers already glued on. This time, unfortunately, I can't share the paper pack with you because I don't think it's in print anymore. It's this one. It's from Paper Addicts. It's called Porcelain Prints, and it's 12 by 12. I bought this a really long time ago. We're talking probably at least 5 years ago, if not longer. So I don't think it's made anymore, but I just thought I'd show it to you in case you wanted to try and find it on the depths of the internet somewhere. I took the layered pug SVG from my shop and cut out a couple of copies of the head to go with my paper. I seem to have a loose nose there, not sure where that's from. And then in Cricut Access, I found some paw prints with a little heart on, which I've done in the same colours as the pug, and a happy birthday sentiment. Again, that one's from Cricut Access. This time, rather than making it completely Cricut themed, I'm also going to add on some stickers because that was just too cute not to do. You can see it was just £1 for all of these stickers. Some of them have got little 3D bits on, and these are also from the range. I went a little bit range crazy buying stuff for this countdown. They did also have this set of animals, which are a little bit more cartoony, but I think the other ones kind of match the vibe I've got going on a bit better. So I'm going to go ahead, get all of this stuck together, and then we'll see how it looks when it's finished. Here is my pug-themed Cascade card finished. The stickers I had were actually really thick. They've got a layer of foam underneath them, so I was careful just to put them where it wasn't going to be covered up with any creases, so it didn't get my card too thick. I just love it. There are so many possibilities for this card. So this is how it would come out the envelope. And then it opens up. We've got pug overload. All of these pugs on this side. And then on the other side, we've got the happy birthday. I've got a little bit of dirt on there. Let's just get that out the way. And the happy birthday, a little bone, and the paw print down there. And my message panel for the back. And then it closes up beautifully. Now you might be thinking, what kind of envelope does a card like this go in? Well, I've got you covered because today's download also comes with an envelope template. Here's how to load it in Design Space and how to get it ready to cut. To make an envelope that your Cascade cards will perfectly fit inside, upload the envelope file included in today's download folder. When it's added onto your canvas, it will look like this. We need to do a few little changes before this is ready to cut, which is to add some score lines. Click on the design and ungroup it with the ungroup button at the top of the layers panel. Then click away. You can see now we've got 4 flaps of the envelope and also a rectangle which is in a group all on its own. So we'll open up the group and then this has got 2 rectangles in it. Click on the top one, which is the one that's just an outline. And then when you look at it, it should appear as blue in the operation little colour box here. Change that to score and then click away. You see that's now showing as a dashed line. Click to select the group, just those 2 lines, and press attach. Make sure all of the 4 flaps of the envelope are still separate. You don't want to attach them to the middle bit, otherwise it'll end up too big to cut. The envelope should load in at the right size. We can just check by pressing Select All and then change it to match the measurements you can see on the screen here. It's 9.716 inches wide and 16.498 inches tall, or thereabouts. Make sure it's not any smaller than that though, otherwise your card probably won't fit in, and you don't want to go to all the effort of making your envelope only for your card not to fit. I have built in a little bit of wiggle room for if your card is particularly thick, but if you are making a card that's got loads and loads and loads and loads and loads of layers in it and you're worried about it fitting, you can drag it just the tiniest bit bigger, and then you're giving yourself a bit more room for your card. But I'll do mine as it comes, or just press ungroup. And then when you're ready, hit make, and that will separate out all the pieces for you. You can try and fit it all on one bit of card by pressing the arrows and then move object and clicking to the original, but I have a feeling they're not gonna fit all on one sheet. Or it might. Let's give it a go. Will, perfect. Okay, so the Cricut and Design Space will try and put it on 2, but we can get all those pieces on one sheet with a little bit of clever rotating and moving things around. Just again, bear in mind, if you're using patterned paper that has a specific right and wrong way up for the pattern to go, if you rotate things, it might mean that the pattern doesn't display right on your finished envelope. I'll get this cut out and then show you how to put the envelope together. Here are all of the parts of the envelope cut out. I've done mine from white, but you can do it from whatever colour you want, either from cardstock, thick paper, scrapbook paper if you want it to be really pretty and fancy, or whatever you like. First up, we're going to fold along all of the score lines. Doesn't matter which direction you fold them in, as long as you do them all the same. At least if your card is the same colour on both sides, it doesn't matter which way you fold it. If you've got a card that's different colours on each side, then fold it so that the one you've got on the back here will be the colour that you want to be seen on the front of the envelope. So by folding all the sides upwards like this as valley folds, that means this will be the inside of my envelope. If you've got a brayer tool, go down those fold lines to make them really crisp. This is actually quite a thick card. A thinner one would maybe have been a little bit more traditionally envelope, but I find the thicker the card, the better it hides what's inside. I always get a little bit sad when I get a card and you can see the picture through it before you've opened the envelope. It sort of ruins the surprise a little bit, but we won't have that problem here. Next, turn the piece upside down and open it out. And then we're going to stick all of the tabs along here. So as I said, this is the side that will be the front of the envelope. For this, I find double-sided tape a little bit easier than glue, just because it's quicker and it holds straight away. This is my favourite double-sided tape runner, which is an easy runner grand. I like it because it's refillable, so you don't have to buy the whole new contraption each time. If you're going to be sending this actually in the post or in the mail, glue might be better, as double-sided tape doesn't always hold as well as glue, but I tend to either hand deliver or give in person my cards, so double-sided tape works for me. And then get each of the sides and line it up as close as you can along the score lines. Got 2 long sides and 2 shorter sides. Very easy to tell which one is which. 2 long ones and 2 short ones. Didn't do a very good job there. Let's try that again. Okay, now we'll turn it back over. This bit of dirt is not gonna go away, is it? It keeps coming back. I find that putting the card together, the envelope together, sorry, with the card in place kind of ends up looking best because then you know it's definitely going to fit height-wise, especially if your card's super thick like this one. You can see that's got a lot of thickness in it. So put your card in the middle and then bring in your two smaller sides and bring up the one at the bottom. And then we're going to tape along the sides on this. The danger of doing it without the card in is if you stick it really tight up against each other, you might not quite have enough room to put it in. You could also just not put the card in, but just stick it a little bit looser like that, and then it would be fine. Okay, so let's put that in there. If you're using glue, you might not want to put your card in just because, you know, you don't want to get it covered in glue. But I'll be careful with my double-sided tape. Actually, I'm going to tape it first, then stick. Make sure you don't get any tape over the edge, otherwise you do run into the risk of sticking the tape to your card. If you do go over the sides like I have there, you can just tuck it in to get rid of that overlap. Okay, now put that in. Close up. And stick. I didn't do a very neat job with my tape there because you can still see it. So I'm just gonna try. Don't think I'm going to be able to do anything about that, unfortunately. I should have been paying more attention to what I was doing instead of looking at my little camera screen to make sure that it was in shot. I might be able to just scratch it out of the way so you can't see it and tuck it under. It's going to ruin my nail varnish. There we go, neatened up. And there's the envelopes. Then you've got the front to write on your message or to draw it on with your Cricut or print it out, however you're going to do it. And then your card will fit beautifully inside. And then you can glue that in place or tape it or add a little wax seal, however you want to seal it. And then that's your custom envelope for your beautiful handmade Cascade card, all finished. I hope that you enjoyed this video on how to make Cascade cards with your Cricut machine. Don't forget there are 3 different templates included in today's download: the straight edge one, the scalloped edge one, and, if you're feeling fancy, the birthday candles one. But even if you're using one of the simpler designs, that doesn't mean your finished cards have to be simple, because you can add whatever embellishments you want to turn them into something truly beautiful, like this pug and my favourite, the bumblebee card. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel for loads more Cricut card making videos. I hope to see you tomorrow for day 10 of the card making countdown. But for now, thank you so much for watching. Bye!